Dr. Mohib, thank you so much for giving us time. If I can get straight to the questions now, India was the first country to sign a strategic partnership with Afghanistan. You've had a very productive meeting with National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and the whole NSA, two deputy NSAs, the Vice Chief of Army and Air Force, the people in the Prime Minister's office, as well as our ambassador. What can you share with us on what was discussed?
Well, like you said, India is a strategic partner with Afghanistan. My visit was to reinforce what we already have in place. We talked about what is happening in the region right now, about the progress that Afghanistan's democratic process has made and India's contribution to that process, as well as the peace efforts that are underway in Afghanistan. It was a wholesome discussion about our partnership as a whole, but it was also an opportunity to renew our commitment to each other and to regional security.
When you're talking about regional security, India has been now for years training personnel from the Afghan National Defense Security Forces, whether it's the ANA or the police, your bureaucrats, lawyers, your students come here as well. But security-wise, in the current situation, is there anything more you need from India, since we have, for the first time, Prime Minister Modi had reversed domestic policy to give you 4 Mi-25 attack helicopters. Is there anything else you need to protect Afghanistan?
I don't want to speak to the specifics, and that's not why I visited this on this occasion. This was more of a strategic dialogue, and I think at this time in phase, it's important for us to collaborate on what we can do for each other collectively in the region, and for our mutual security. These are matters that are tied to each other, whether there are no islands anymore. Yeah.
You don't want to talk about specifics, but those 4 Mi-25s, we have been told that there have been other efforts to maybe procure another 4 from Belarus and give them to you. How far has that project progressed?
We will receive the first 2 of those in March, hopefully. It's just a process that's taking time now, and then another 2 in, I think, June or July. It's just a matter of the preparation, but they will arrive soon.
You had a large role in the documentation and the discussions that went on before the US signed their strategic partnership with you as well. And then you were the ambassador to the United States. President Donald Trump has been making a lot of statements that have rankled people, that have stunned people. We probably used to it already, but in the recent past, especially when he raised the issue of the invasion of the Soviet Union, and when he almost snubbed Prime Minister Modi in a way by saying that he repeatedly told him about a library that India had built, and what's the use of that? Nobody in Afghanistan goes to a library. He was probably referring to the parliament, which is an important symbolic gesture of our partnership.
You know, India and Afghanistan are 2 democratic countries. And the fact that India has contributed to the democratic process symbolizes what it wants to achieve in Afghanistan, and how it sees itself, the role it wants to play in the region. We in Afghanistan, as a democratic country, appreciate those gestures, and will continue to build on the progress we have made in the last 17 years. Afghanistan has gone through a lot of difficult periods in the last 4 decades. We are on the cusp of achieving peace, and we're committed to making and seeing that through.
There have been statements again from President Ghani's office, from his chief of staff, as well as from the new acting defense minister after President Trump's comments. So those comments have not really gone down well. in Afghanistan and many other places?
Look, the fact of the matter is that we all have to continue what we are doing. In my job, it's important that I keep focus on national security, and we will continue to do that. This is the reason I'm visiting India, and it happens that you also have quite a big amount of focus on national security in your own country, but also in the region. Like I said, we're all tied together.
When you're talking about national security, President Trump's South Asia policy that was announced in August 2017, do you see that now as having been completely reversed? Because reports are now coming out of, even though the White House hasn't confirmed them as yet, that like Syria, there will be some sort of a drawdown. There has been a response from the Afghanistan establishment as well. How does the National Security Advisor deal with a situation like that?
The increase in the troops that happened in 2018 was quite recent. The drawdown will not have a significant impact. It's, like I said, it's quite a recent addition, and we have been preparing and have been leading actually the security efforts since 2014, when 100,000 US and NATO troops withdrew from Afghanistan. We are continuing to build on the capacity and capabilities of our own security forces, and are quite proud of the achievements they have had over the last four years. And we are prepared for whatever is to come. I have full confidence in their capacity. We have recently had some changes in the leadership to fix the gap that may have existed. The rest, Afghanistan has defended itself in the centuries that have passed us, and we will continue to stay strong and defend our rights. It's a sovereign nation that has never given in to anyone who would try to conquer us. And today, I must say that we are in a very strong position to be able to bring long-term stability to Afghanistan.
The changes that you were referring to that have taken place, including Amrullah Saleh being appointed as the Interior Minister, the Acting Defense Minister Khalid, both ex-NSA directors, both known to be virulently against any kind of safe havens or sanctuaries in Pakistan, which the Taliban or any other terrorist organizations can use. What's the message being sent out at the current time then?
You know, peace is the desire of our people, but until there is peace, we must defend our people. The message is simple. We will defend our people, and we'll do it with strength.
The US has been asked repeatedly to take out the safe havens or make sure that Pakistan takes action against them. How do you visualize that progressing in the current scenario after President Trump again started it off with a tweet on the 1st of January and made strong statements, but now he's writing letters to Imran Khan, the Prime Minister, and seemingly wanting to engage. How do you see the US vis-a-vis Pakistan in holding the government, the administration, the deep state responsible for acts of terrorism against the people in Afghanistan?
Well, terrorism is the enemy of us all. Right? One of the reasons we are such good partners with India is because we see eye to eye on this matter. That terrorism is bad for the region, it's bad for the world. It's simply bad for humanity, and we would like to see all our neighbors play a constructive role in ending or curbing terrorism. It's not good for anyone. And we are willing to discuss how we can play a constructive role and assist anyone who would want to in eliminating terrorism and also
That's
build
what's leading
stability.
me to my next question, which is Pakistan still stuck in a mindset of the 80s? Is it willing to change?
I can speak to what Afghanistan is doing. For us, it's important that we bring stability to Afghanistan. And we will do it at every cost that we have to pay. We have made tremendous amount of sacrifices first to defeat the invaders that had come in the 80s. We will continue to defend our nation today. In the last 17 years, some 55,000 Afghan security forces were martyred, and they sacrificed their lives for us to be able to see a better future. We're not going to give up on that.
When you're talking about numbers, and it's not exactly good to put those numbers, because these are each individuals that are being killed or casualties and affecting families there. But if you look at numbers of the recent past, when you're talking about the capability and the capacity of the security forces, the Afghan security forces, the numbers of those being killed seems to be larger than ever before in terms of when they started being reported in 2015. And so is the area that the government controlled, it seems to be the least at this point. So how do you look at the situation from now? You're saying peace, you're on the cusp of peace, but it is at a crossroads again?
Look, first of all, in terms of territory, Afghanistan is a mountainous country. For the size of the country, we have a very small population. We would ideally like to man and control every inch of the territory, but it's realistically, in the current security circumstances, it's not possible for us to do that. So we do make priorities about where we want to keep. Our focus is on population rather than manning or securing every inch of the territory at this point. So there is significance for us in certain areas in terms of control. And there are areas that we consider at this point in time not as significant. So in terms of population, about 89% of the Afghan population is living in areas and is provided for by the Afghan security forces and Afghan government as a whole. We provide services to all 100% of Afghans wherever they are. Humanitarian services, public services to them. They continue to enjoy all aspects of what the government is supposed to provide to them. So if it's easy for one man to bring terror to 100 people with one man with a gun, and that's exactly what it is. There are areas where Taliban and other terrorist groups are able to put fear in ordinary citizens of Afghanistan. And we are working through a rigorous plan to ensure that we eliminate that fear. Peace is the ultimate desire of the Afghan people, and we will continue to work on that. But it's also our job and responsibility to provide security to our people so that they can make sound decision and judgment about how they want to live their lives. In the recent past, we had parliamentary elections in Afghanistan. Despite all kinds of threats, people stood in lines and voted. There was, I think, a clear message by the people, and that was, we want to be in control of our own we want to be in control of our own future. And as a government, we must provide them that opportunity.
About elections, I'll just come to that, but since you brought up the issue of being at the cusp of a peace, now talks with the Taliban. Zalmai Khalilzad has been appointed. There have been at least 3 rounds with Alice Wells also in several countries. He's visited about 9 countries, if I count correctly. India has not been one of them to even inform the Indians, though we hear reports that he's possibly coming soon. But apart from that, how do you see them progressing? Because constantly in each of these dialogue processes, the Taliban issues statements saying that they will not talk to the Afghan government or its representatives.
Like I said, the Afghan people want peace. And as a responsible government, we will continue to make every effort to afford them that opportunity. At the same time, We also recognize that groups may not all be operating with full independence. There are influences and control from entities that I think we both know very well. And they will look at their objectives first. But if the Taliban are Afghans and would like to see and play a role in Afghanistan, I would once again use this opportunity to call on them to have talks with Afghans. There will be no peace without Afghans, intra-Afghan dialogue. The Afghan government has offered at multiple occasions we have offered ceasefire, of course, but we have also offered opportunities for have direct dialogue, unconditional talks. Right? Of course, peace will have to be conditional because the Afghan people would have to agree to it. But the fact that we are ready to sit without any preconditions with them is a big step. This is not something that was available in the past. And as time passes, this opportunity may not always exist.
The next round, which is supposed to be held in Jeddah, the High Peace Council has already come out, the spokesperson has come out saying that the Afghan government or its representatives will not participate unless there is a condition, that is the Taliban or whoever is sent to talk for the Taliban engage with the Afghan government. Is that a condition now?
No, that's not a condition to for talks. The fact that if they are prepared to speak with the Afghan government, we will then participate in the process. That condition is on the process. Right? If they're not willing to participate and talk directly with the Afghan government, then it's not really useful for us to go all the way and not be present in the talks. Right? So again, our desire is peace, and we are doing everything that we must as a responsible government to ensure that we have that process at some point, including tightening security in Afghanistan. This is also our job, to provide security to our people, and we will continue to strengthen our security forces, which is the responsibility of the Afghan government in our constitution, the legitimate use of force for the protection of all people in Afghanistan. And I am proud to say that we are making very good progress in all aspects of our security forces, the Air Force, the special forces, the commandos. We are reforming the police. We have made significant reforms in the Afghan army. There are new, well-trained leaders in effect at all levels. So we are prepared for our national defense and have been doing it for 17 years. And we're not afraid of any sacrifices that we must make to bring that stability. If the Taliban would like to be part of this process and serve the Afghan people, and we are ready to discuss any grievances they might have.
It seems to be more and more conditions which keep coming up whenever the Taliban participate, either in this process or in the other processes of talks. So the last one, they even raised the issue when the ceasefire was reportedly offered, and possibility of getting some kind of an interim government or putting them in positions of government, at least talking about it. They started asking for the head of that interim government to be there. So their demands seem to be increasing as these talks go on. So is this going back to what you referred in a short while ago, that these are people who are being controlled by other entities and possibly institutions and countries, and hence they don't want peace?
Let's separate disinformation from what is actually in the process. There has been no discussions on the part of anybody on any interim government. Afghanistan has a constitutional process. As a democracy, we are committed to what we have at our hands. There will be presidential elections in July. And once again, everybody is already preparing for that election. That is a fact. What happens in the misinformation space is not something that I think has any credibility of this. Yeah.
Fair enough. But are you confident that the US administration currently and Zalmay Khalilzad are, of course, they will be looking at their interests, like the Afghans will be looking after their interests, but do they come into conflict in any way in terms of President Trump wanting to pull out troops, wanting to withdraw from all areas, including Afghanistan, and to do that in a hurry because of his next elections, not keeping the Afghan government in this process in what we call is Afghan-owned, Afghan-controlled and Afghan-led?
The United States and Afghanistan have a bilateral security agreement. That is what...
you had a great role to play in that.
Well, that is the agreement that actually oversees our relationship in many aspects. And that continues to be in force. And any decisions that would be made on Afghanistan will have to be Afghan-owned and Afghan-led. We have been leading the peace process. We offered the first ceasefire, we offered the second ceasefire, and we are even preparing now for the possibility of a third ceasefire. The Afghan government, like I said, at the will of its people, as a democratic government, wants to implement whatever the people of Afghanistan want, and we would like to see reduced violence. And if it's going to come through ceasefire, we're always prepared for a possibility like that. But if it's rejected, like I said before, we will continue to defend our people.
What do you see India's role in this? Because India has participated as an observer in the Moscow process. We sent a former ambassador from Indian ambassador to Afghanistan, who's now on our National Security Advisory Board as well, and another senior diplomat, but they just observed. What do you see India's role in this whole process, in the whole region, in fact, to get peace to Afghanistan and the region?
You know, India and Afghanistan see eye to eye on terrorism. Yeah? We both believe in democratic processes. We both believe that people should be able to determine their own future. And we both believe in the legitimacy of governments and where their role comes into play. And it continues to partner with us in that process. And this trip was once again a reassurance that we see eye to eye.
A few last questions. You were talking about the elections. Now, there are already reports. Are you saying that this is also misinformation, that the presidential elections could be postponed to have some kind of peace process moving forward before that, as the US wants? Absolutely.
First of all, there has been a slight delay in the elections, but it's because of process. The Independent Election Commission needed some more time to be able to hold credible, fair elections. The Afghan people deserve credible elections. And that there has been a small delay, about 3 months from April to July. But that's all, and it's because of the needs to be able to prepare better. There is no conspiracy behind it.
No conspiracy, but like you're saying, that movement towards the presidential elections is also gathering pace. There are people who are putting up their hands saying that they would possibly fight against President Ashraf Ghani. You have Hanif Atmar, who was your predecessor. They talk about a first vice president, second vice president, which include Mohib and the former speaker Kanuni as well. So that process at least is... Does that give you hope, even if it's opposition to your administration, that the democratic process is moving forward, even if slowly?
You know, the Afghan people love their elections, right? We participate with full commitment to it. People are already registering their tickets for president. Some of them have already done so, but many others have taken the information packages and are preparing for a run. It's important that we continue this process, and that the Afghan people continue to be able to choose who they would like them to lead, and give them a mandate for both peace and progress in our country. We really look forward to this next presidential election. I think, again, it will be an opportunity for the Afghans to renew their commitment to democracy.
And in terms of changing the narrative that the world sees Afghanistan through those lenses, say when you talk about women's rights, we've seen movement on that also, both from on the ground to right on the top. Now you have an ambassador to the US, you have Adil Araz as the UN permanent representative, you have ministers who are women, about 28% if not more of the parliament is of women. There has been a lot of movement from the ground till the top as far as women's rights goes.
Well, Afghanistan is a different country now. I think most people do not realize how much it has changed the demographic, socially, and it's unfortunate that the headlines abroad are still about war, but inside the society has not stayed static. It has made progress. Thanks to the opportunities we have been afforded in the last 17 years, Afghans have gone abroad, had acquired education, higher level, higher education abroad, including in India, where many of our students continues to study, and have returned and are now putting what they've learned to practice in Afghanistan.
A perfect example of that is you.
Well, we all are beneficiary of what we have had in the last 17 years. So, yeah.
Just on your personal journey as well, I do believe your wife, Mrs. Mohib, fell in love with Afghanistan before she fell in love with you. Is that true?
Afghanistan is a place where
completely.
Once you go,
I completely agree with you.
It draws you in, right? And it's not just the country itself; it's the people in Afghanistan. Despite the miseries that have been imposed on us, the Afghan people continue to be extremely gracious and are very hospitable, welcoming, and there is this incredible resilience in Afghanistan that even at the slight hint of optimism, people once again see opportunity and look towards a brighter future.
Patience and perseverance, I think, is what embodies what you have done. And I remember reading an interview when you recounted what your mother had told you about an Afghan fable, about the calf being carried down and up the mountain. So that's a perfect example of what you're saying, perseverance, patience.
Afghanistan has, as that fable would say, has been lifting a lot of the weight. And once again, I think not enough credit is given to the Afghan security forces for what they have been able to achieve since 2014. We have been building a military while fighting a war, and we've been able to do that successfully, and we continue to defend. And we are on the offensive in Afghanistan now. The enemy, despite all its propaganda, is on the run, and I think that speaks to the resilience and the commitment of the Afghan people to continue to invest in its own security while we're fighting a war. We're building our institutions too, and I must say that I'm very proud of our security forces. Those are people who know their country and know the value of patriotism and understand what they must do to secure a better future for all of us.
Does the National Security Advisor get any free time? His family, you have 2 children now. I think the daughter's Mariam must be around 3.5 years old.
She's 2.5.
2.5, and a son.
Sorry, my daughter is 5. Sorry.
And your son.
Yeah.
And your wife itself, she had worked so much at the community level in Afghanistan. When she started, she worked with specially able children as well. She has her own focuses. What does the NSA do in his free time? Does he have any free time?
I'm really honored to be able to serve my country. This is an opportunity for me to do something and to pay back to my nation. There will be lots of free time afterwards, once we have peace.
Thank you so much. But we hope we gave you a warm reception, welcome, and stay here. And
it always is.
And we know that when we come there, you will reciprocate. Thank you so much. Tashakkur Manana.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks.